we left the pot in water. What's the difference? If we hold the pot, the container contains water. When we drop it in the river, it's not the container that contains water mainly, but the water contains the container, and incidentally the container contains water. So the pot is in water mainly, and water is in the pot incidentally. You see that the ship is traveling on water. The ocean has its own waves, and a fellow was sitting in his tub in the bathroom in the ship, and the water in the tub has its own waves, and then he takes a handful of water from the tub. The water has its own waves, ripples in the hand. And now understand your life in terms of water. We can understand that we are in the body just as water is there in the pot. We can also understand that the body is in us, and incidentally we are there in the body. The more and more we are able to know this, the more and more we experience what is called liberation. Liberation is not a concept discovered by the human brain. It's not an attainment, it's not an achievement. It is the natural state in which we are expected to exist. Whereas the present state in which we are is called the state of self-conditioning. Some people believe that liberation is a great state. It is the opposite of it. Liberation is no state, whereas all the other states we live in are states. That is what the great master Ramana Maharshi taught to one of his disciples. One of his disciples was talking to him and asked, Swami, how can I get liberation? He said, you can never get liberation. And the disciple thought that he was a great sinner, and therefore he could not get it. And in the evening once again he asked, Swami, is there no hope of my getting liberation? He said, not at all, absolutely no hope. Then how can I be redeemed? Then the Swami said, liberation can never be attained. Non-liberation can be removed. You are in an unnatural state of existence, and what you call liberation is the natural state. You can remove the unnatural state, but you can't attain the natural state, because it is a state in which you are expected to be. That is what is called liberation. And what are the obstacles? And they are very sorry that we are not able to overcome the obstacles. And they were observing us and teaching us how to come out of the obstacles. Christ was there to give us liberation, and we believed in Christ, but we never believed in leaving off our own old beliefs. We have belief on our money, we have belief on Christ. Let us be careful of our money and let Christ take care of our salvation. Can this be called belief? It is dog belief, not human belief. Belief means he wants us, not what we have. The Lord wants us. You see, there is a fable in one of the Puranas about the obstacles on the way to salvation. You know the story of Krishna. One day he called one of his best disciples to himself and said, I am having an unbearable headache. Then he said, my Lord, what we should do? And then Krishna said, all these people believe that I am God, but what happens when they know that I am having headache? Therefore, see, you don't talk to any fellow that I am having headache. See, the God will be in trouble. But I want a remedy. Go and bring some medicine. Don't tell anyone that it is for me. This fellow went out and brought some aspirin tablets. He swallowed and said, no, it's not gone. All the medicines tried, no use. Allopathy, homeopathy, Ayurveda, Eskadar, all the systems tried. And the disciple tried to cure him spiritually. No use. And then the Lord said to the disciple, in my childhood when I was a cowherd living in the village, I was having this headache. And there was one remedy which cured it immediately. I will tell you the secret. Will you bring it? Yes, he said. If there is anyone who believes in me that I am a God, that I am God, the Lord, highest God, you have to bring the sand, the earth under his feet and make a paste of it and apply it to my head. So, the clay under the feet of my disciple, my devotee, not disciple. And then the devotee began to think, where from I have to bring it? And Krishna was having 8 wives, mainly. But there were only 8 wives who are officially his wives. And the devotee approached the first wife, the queen, and said, Madam, something in confidential. You see, our Lord God is having headache. He wants medicine. Then she said, go to the medical store. And he said, I want some sand from under your feet. That's nonsense, unbelievable. She said, I will go to hell if the sand under my feet is applied to the head of the Lord. Then he went to the second wife. Then he went to the second wife. Same thing. Third wife, fourth wife, fifth, 8 wives. And then he approached each and every disciple in the city and returned after 2 hours. No sand, no clay. Then the Lord said, you are a fool. You have propagated the fact that I am having headache. But you could not bring the remedy. You are a wonderful devotee. It is enough if I have one devotee like you. But it is my great luck that I have so many hundreds of devotees like you in this city. Then what to do, he said. My head will fly away. I am dying with headache. Go out of the city and see that there are some cowherd ladies who are coming to sell yogurt there. They come from my village. Tell them that your Lord, same fellow, is having headache, and bring the sand under the feet of one cowherd lady. In my childhood, I used to have the treatment from them, but I am not having the advantage of accepting it to others. Now go there and bring the sand. And the fellow went out of the city, and from the village, the cowherd ladies were coming to sell milk and yogurt in the city. And he approached one fellow and said, where from you are coming? She said, Gokul, that is the village. He asked, do you know Krishna? No. She said, what a wonderful fellow you are. He is my life, and my life is devoted to him. Then he asked her, how many days ago you have seen him? She said, 36 years. He came away to the city 36 years ago, and he asked, how is it you are a devotee of this fellow? You have not seen him for 36 years. And she says, I am seeing him. There is nothing like not seeing him. Every moment I live in him and he lives in me. And what is it you want? She said, your Lord is in great trouble, having headache. Then she said, what is it you want? The sand under your feet. She was carrying a basket of yogurt on the head, and she has given a kick with her leg and caught hold of some sand under her leg. Here is the sand, she said. And 4 more ladies came there and inquired, what is it? And each of the ladies took a handful of sand and said, here it is. 10 more ladies came there, and they gave each a handful of sand. And the fellow, he gathered all the sand in a big upper garment, his cloth. He thought that it would be useful to preserve it for the Lord to the future. Commercial. Then he brought the whole sand to the Lord, and the Lord was ready to go out. Then he said, shall I apply this to your head? The Lord said, no, the headache disappeared. Then the disciple asked, I have not applied it to your head. Then the Lord said, I didn't mention to whose head it should be applied. It is to be applied to your head, not my head, because my headache is only due to your presence. The false devotee, the fellow who believes in the Lord and also believes in his own money, then he said, you believe in me because you want many favors from me. This is not what is called spiritualism. If we believe God because he has to give us good business tomorrow, it's not spiritualism, but it is dogism. But you know how these ladies of the Kamhard village believed in me. You go there and stay there for a day and then come back, he said. Then you will understand what devotion is and what spiritualism is. Then the fellow went there and stayed for 2 days. And when he was returning, all the cowherd ladies gathered round him and questioned him, how do you live with the Lord? Then this fellow said, he is protecting us. We are honored by everyone because we are in the city of the Lord. We are having our monies and properties safe because we are with the Lord. Then they thought, what a dog you are. Then all of them brought some butter and made it into a big ball and asked this fellow to carry it to the Lord. He said, foolish, it will melt away if I carry it like this. Then they said, we know that much, but we know something else also. As long as the mind is upon the Lord, it never melts because it is our faith. And we use it to carry it daily in our own hands from our houses to the house of the Lord to feed him. You are a great devotee of the Lord, and always your mind is fixed on him. So carry it in your hand. The fellow took it, and he was forced to place his mind upon the Lord. With great difficulty he was thinking of the Lord only of the Lord. And suddenly he received a pat on his shoulder. He saw the Lord patting him, asked him, what have you brought from my cowherd ladies? He said, take it, otherwise immediately it will go away. Then the Lord said, I pity you, are you still in the same stage? This is the fable or the story that is given about spiritualism and devotion. So the obstacles are very, very subtle. It is very difficult to come over the obstacles. And the ordinary obstacles are as follows. Disease. We are sick, therefore let us begin to practice spiritualism after we have become healthy. That is one disease. Very bad logic. See, it is like thinking that I am sick, I can't go to the doctor, I can go tomorrow when I am healthy. So many people are sick in body and many more people are sick in mind. They say, we practice spiritualism when we are okay. The trouble is, unless they practice spiritualism, no one can be okay. It is like the story of an insane youth, young man. A fellow has gone mad because he wanted to marry and he could not get himself married. He was taken to the doctors, but the doctors advised that he should be married. Then only he will be cured. But ladies said he can be married only when he is cured, because no idiot of a lady is going to accept him as husband. So same thing with this fellow also. Unless he is cured of his disease, he is not going to accept to start spiritualism. And unless one begins to practice spiritualism, no one is healthy. This is called one of the defects by Patanjali. And the second obstacle is described as passive attitude. Passive attitude should be practiced towards pleasures, not towards spiritualism. When we are students, we think of practicing spiritualism after we join some profession and settle well in life. And when we are in a profession, we believe that we have to practice spiritualism after we get married, because we want to practice together. And then after getting married, we are too happy to begin. And we got children. Then we are too busy with our children. We believe we have to practice spiritualism when everything is settled in life. That is, asking the wife to take her own course of life, and the sons settled somewhere in life. And then I will have ample time to practice spiritualism. In the meanwhile, his friend witnesses his grave and remembers that the fellow has not practiced spiritualism. Whenever his friend sees the grave, he remembers that his friend died without practicing spiritualism. This is the second obstacle. Patanjali gives the third obstacle as doubt. We practice yoga, about 150 asanas a day, and some pranayama. It takes about 3 hours. And after 6 months, we doubt the process. Because somebody says, no use of hatha yoga. I am trying to practice haja yoga. The friend asks, what do you mean by haja yoga? He says, not all these physical practices, nonsensical things. It is just to close your eyes and go into the mental and the higher mental and the buddhic and the nirvanic and the paranirvanic planes. Yes. At one stroke, you will be on the 7th subplane of the 7th main plane. So, it is the skill of the Guru who gives a kick on your buttock in the name of initiation. And immediately you will receive initiation human and also solar. Very easy. Then the fellow leaves off after 6 months the Hatha Yoga and then goes to Raja Yoga. The fellow finds it good because it is new. And after 1.5 years, another friend asks him, do you find any results? He says, I don't find any results. Then he says, come here, I am practicing yoga of biogenetics. Let us do yoga dance. Let us eat yoga pudding. Yes, yogic way of doing things. Then the fellow stops it and goes with him. And yoga of biogenetics for 2.5 years. Daily trying to do yoga dance. And after 1.5 years, another friend comes and asks, are you able to control your mind? He says, kamsi kamsa. Then, are you able to see your own Guru in your mind? He says, no. Then the friend asks, pourquoi? Then he says, why don't you practice transcendental meditation? It's very easy. Then he stops this. First few months he gets a simple relaxation of everything. He is not capable of entering into the advanced steps of anything. And then one disciple of Sri Aurobindo invites him to his meditation. And he says, the Kundalini will creep like that upwards. And at the end of 20 or 25 years, the fellow is being kicked like a football from north to south and from south to north by all other fellows. And he is at the same place. What happens if I run the street up and then down and then up? I can never reach the destination. I will be only in front of the university building. So many people die with this. That is what Patanjali says. And then next obstacle is mistake, wrong way of doing. You are asked to take in respiration, counting 10. Then stop it and count 40. Then breathe out, counting 20. With empty lungs, without breathing in, count 5. Pranayama, 5 is to 10 is to 40 is to 20. The fellow gets a cough. And after some days, he begins to feel some heat inside because he is doing the wrong thing. Another fellow comes and says, stop it, I will teach you esoteric breaths like this. Yes. And like this. Yes. That is monstrosities of yoga practice. The masters say that the practice of yoga is a pleasure while practicing. It is a pleasure after practicing. It is a pleasure to enjoy its results. And it is a great pleasure to live life with yoga rightly practiced. And it is also a pleasure in old age. And it is also a great pleasure to experience the moments of leaving the body. That is the test of real spiritualistic practice and yoga practice. So, we have practiced many wrong things. Some people starve and they call it fasting. They threaten God by starving. Unless you give me liberation, I will starve unto death. But God gave us food to eat. He never asked us to starve. Many are the abnormalities we practice. Some people stop speaking to others because they are practicing yoga. Some people grow serious in their attitude of life. They say, we have no business to smile or laugh because this whole world is transitory and it is a sin and we have to live only in the world of God. Many such mistakes we commit. And the fifth one is called laziness. Let us practice. Tomorrow morning, I pretend to think that I was not awake. So, I say from tomorrow morning, from next morning. Now, I have a journey ahead. I have to take a journey to the Occident for 2.5 months leaving India. So, let me postpone my practice until I return home. And a student sees his examinations ahead. Therefore, I will begin to practice after the examinations are finished. Another fellow says, my wife is pregnant. Let me begin to practice after she gives birth to a child. So, straight he goes to the grave without practicing. Next, to be busy. Really, we are busy. So, let us find time to practice. The fellow straight goes to grave. So, he has to choose if he has to practice or he has to choose to be busy. The truth is, it is a mental disease to be busy. We can be active and we have no business to feel busy. So, it is the next obstacle. The seventh obstacle is called very self-fooling. Begins to practice and there is some lumbago for some reason, and instead of going to the doctor, the fellow says to himself, my kundalini is beginning to wake up. And then in the night he gets a dream that he is flying with wings in space. Instead of calling it a dream, he calls it an astral travel, because he is too much ashamed of calling it mere dream. He calls all these things experiences. So, caring for experiences, that's the seventh obstacle. Then you can ask, are there no genuine experiences? There are experiences, but caring for experiences is self-fooling. The purpose of practicing yoga is not at all an experience. To a spiritualist, there is only one true experience. That is the truth of his life and living. If you ask him what for you are living, the answer is to live. There is no purpose, no function. Life is a pleasure to him. Therefore, he has no dirty questions why to live and what is the object of living and what is the ideal of living. And people question each other, what are your experiences, sir? It's all nonsense. One day, one lady came to Ramana Maharshi and said, in my dream, I have seen Lord Kumara Subramania. Then he asked him, how is he? Then she said, he was in a golden yellow color, having one hand like this and one hand like this, and smiling, and behind him there is a big halo of light. And then the Ramana Maharshi said, my daughter, he is not the Lord. He is the child of your dream brain. That's the truth of it. We have many experiences and we call them spiritual experiences. Spiritualism will give us only the experience of the world before us in all its truth. All the other experiences are only fairy tales and cock and bull stories. And then the last and the eighth of the obstacles Patanjali describes is finding